Krishna is living as
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Vrajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Vrajana Yamuna Tira Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Vrajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Vrajana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Namo Vishnu Krishna Prishthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami जय श्री हरिनाम संकीर्तन की जय, श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय, अनंत कोटि वैष्णव भक्त वृंद की जय, जय निताय गौर प्रेमानंदे। हरि बोल। अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपकदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकम्। नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिनिति नामिने। नमस्ते सारस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्यैव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. So, today I would like to speak on a topic which is a little different from what goes on here regularly. So, we would be speaking on some of the pastimes of the Lord, and this would be a break. This week is a break from the regular Srimad Bhagavatam classes that is held here. So tomorrow is the 11th day of the waxing phase of the moon according to the Vaishnava calendar. This is the month of Ashad. So tomorrow is Ashad Shukla Ekadashi. This particular Ekadashi is also Deva Shayani Ekadashi or Shayana Ekadashi. So, Vedic perspective, the offering of ablutions and fire sacrifices is important. According to the Bhagavad Gita, that is one of the ways that we contribute to the cycle of life in this creation. Yajna karma is important. Why is it important? Because by yajna karma you get parjanya. Parjanya means rains. Parjanya is that aspect of the universal rainfall that is important for the growth of grains. Rains also called as Varsha. However, Parjanya is with reference to how rainwater is very essential for the growth of food grains in the fields. So yajnat bhavati parjanyo. through yajna, one contributes to this cycle of the rains falling from the skies. Why is that? Because Parjanya Anna Sambhava. When the rains fall, then there is a possibility of having food grains. And Anna. So Parjanyat, from rains come Anna Sambhava. There's a possibility that one can have luxuriant growth of edible or plants that give us food to eat. Annat bhavanti bhutani. So Anna is essential for the living entities. All kinds of living entities, not just humans, but all kinds of living entities. Yes. So and then Parjanya is by doing yajna. So yajna karma samabhavan. One try to engage oneself in this yajnas, the fire sacrifices. In the same chapter of the Gita, the Lord explains that there are certain beings called as the Devatas. The Devatas influence the workings of the material elements in this creation. They have certain access. According to the Vedic scriptures, they have access to regulating the flow of the wind, regulating the sunshine, etc. So there has to be a cooperation between humans and the devas. So where do the devas, where can we find the devas or the devatas? We can call them up through certain apps, and they have access to cloud. So you call them up, you connect with them, they receive your message. So iCloud, according to the Bhagavad Gita, is yajna. So that is the means of communication. All right. So you upload something there, someone downloads it. So uploading is called as ablutions. And when the devatas download it, that is their food. According to the human solar year, on this particular day, called as Shayani Ekadashi, around this time, the devatas, along with their leader, the Lord of the Devas, Lord Vishnu, they all take rest. Put off the lights, they get into bed, they're off to sleep. So we should not disturb them. because they have really worked hard throughout their daytime, and now it's rest. Fire sacrifices are not to be performed. So yajnas are not performed for the purpose of having a cooperative symbiotic relationship with the devas. You can perform fire sacrifices for other purposes. But the fire sacrifices that we perform in our relationship with the devatas, that are not supposed to be performed. Why? Because they would not be downloading anything. So even if you upload, it won't be downloaded. So you have to wait for the office hours to open again. So when would we be waking up again? Utthana Ekadashi. It is also called as Devotthana Ekadashi. Ashad, Ashwin, then Ashad, then Bhadrapad, Ashwin, Kartik. Kartik is a time of Devotthana Ekadashi, so 4 months. So 4 months, we engage ourselves in other acts of sacrifices, like going to holy places, taking a bath in sacred holy places, hearing the Srimad Bhagavatam, chanting of the holy names of Krishna. And then on Devotthana Ekadashi, we can again start interacting with the demigods, the devatas. So this is why Devashayani Ekadashi is significant for those who offer fire sacrifices to the devatas. Now, if one is engaged in hearing and chanting the glories of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, then one need not engage in fire sacrifices. One can. It is not mandatory. Nonetheless, we do celebrate this Ekadashi by fasting from the non-Ekadashi food, specifically fasting from grains and beans. Why is that? Because that is what we follow in our institute. The founder Acharya of our institute, His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, he said that at least he wanted all of his followers in ISKCON to follow this norm, that at least from grains and beans, we fast on Ekadashi. During Prabhupada's times, we did not have any alternative to sabudana. There was no quinoa, not known that. And samo rice was a little known. But during Prabhupada's times, samo rice pizza was not, it had not come into being as yet. So it was a little austere on Ekadashi days. But you see, hunger is the mother of invention. So anyway, hunger is the mother of blessings. So we have nice feast on Ekadashi. That's it. So prior to Ekadashi, we have to prepare ourselves for the fast. How do we prepare ourselves? Since we understand that hearing the glories, the pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and chanting the holy names of the Supreme Lord are very helpful. So that is what we do. Hence today, we'll listen to some pastimes. So many years ago, in the southern part of the Indian subcontinent, today what we call as Tamil Nadu, the state of Tamil Nadu. The city of Srirangam was the center of Vaishnavism, as it is today too. An island city. Of the river Kaveri, and there's a thin branch of it that goes around this island. It's called a corridor, river corridor. This river is very sacred to all the Vaishnavas. So Lord Ranganath Swami says that he is Lord Narayan, Lord Krishna. A great saint. Was the guiding light for hundreds upon thousands of people. One day Yamunacharya was very much attracted to a simple man working in the fields. Yamunacharya asked him to come and stay with him. Society was very rigidly divided into various sects. So according to those divisions, this farmer or farm worker was on the lowest rung of those divisions and did not have many privileges that the other levels of society had. So when he was invited to live with the great Acharya, the great teacher, he could understand that this is phantasmagoria, this is not possible. He said, "Sir, this is not possible because I belong to the lower section of society. So it would not be acceptable." The Acharya said, "No. Seeing your devotion, the Supreme Lord has accepted you. Please come and stay with me." So the gentleman came and served the Acharya for a long time, for many years, like decades. The Acharya finally took samadhi, departed from this mortal world. And many people were very much affected, especially emotionally affected by the departure of the great Acharya. In certain sections of society became very vocal. They always had concerns out of respect for the great Acharya and out of respect for the Acharya's status and the Acharya's dealings, they did not voice their concerns. However, now since they had an opportunity, they started voicing their concerns. And why is this old man allowed to stay in these facilities meant for the higher sections of society? When this happened, the farm worker who had now started living in the temple facilities was almost in his 80s, very old. He was very good friends with another disciple of Ramanacharya, Periyanand or Mahapurna. So Mahapurna was very fond of Madanirinambi, was the name of this devotee. So he would console him, or he would try to make him see that how he should not be affected by people's voices. Louder, however, the person was so elderly that other than just voice their dissatisfaction, they didn't do anything more. The time came for him to leave his mortal coil. He realized at the time. So he told his friend that this body of mine is useless, because the body that I had throughout my life, the birth of this body was in a very low set. And anyways, this mortal coil, this mortal body is not very helpful to serve the Lord. However, for so many years, so many decades, this body has been the means to serve the great Yamunacharya. I have served him personally. That is the only qualification that this body has. After my death, according to the sect that I was born in, people, they would just discard this body. Since this body has served the great Acharya, this body now has some status. It would not look good if that which was used in the Acharya's service is just discarded. So my request unto you is, when I leave my body, remembering the shelter of our great teacher, meditating on that shelter when I leave my body, after I pass away, please don't let my relatives have this body. Because if they get this body, it would be like a very filthy animal gets possession of the prasad from fire sacrifices. Since Yamunacharya has used his body in various ways, has allowed service to happen through this body in various ways, this body should be given a fitting funeral. So would you kindly please look after my funeral? So Mahapurna, he accepted that proposal. Very soon, This great devotee left his mortal coil. When Mahapurna heard the news, he was very much saddened at the loss of a great friend. And then he went to claim that body. And he personally performed the final rites and put that body in samadhi. After the final rites, he established a samadhi. If you go to Sri Ranga, you still see that samadhi. So all the people who had these concerns about why it is important to maintain some discrimination amongst different levels of society, they became so agitated. They started a campaign on social media. Ban Mahaprabhu, ostracize him. Started off with a tweet. In a single day, there were thousands of retweets. At the end of the day, 1 million people were lending voice to this tweet. Mahapurna, hi, hi. Ban Mahapurna. Mahapurna was banned. He could not visit the temple of Lord Ranganath. The guards at the temple gates, they respectfully requested him not to come to the temple. He was barred from participating in any of the society functions. No one was selling him grains from the shops. He could not trade. His bank accounts were frozen. Just a few people supported him. His only concern was that he was not able to serve Sri Ranganath Swami. His service, he was rendering service since many, many years. Now they wanted to strip him of all of his Vaishnava status. So Sri Ramanujacharya had been anointed as the spiritual leader by then. Ramanujacharya held an open court, invited everyone. So there was a public discussion. And therein he invited Mahapurna too. He asked Mahapurna that, why did you do that, sir? You could have asked anyone else to do it. Why did you have to do the final rites for this gentleman? And then people are like, yes, yes, this is not correct. This is wrong. There has to be certain norms in society. Discrimination has to be there. And anyone who willfully goes against the norms should be banned for life. So Ramanujacharya asked him, what was the reason, sir? I know that you are very learned. You wouldn't act in any ways that is contrary to the norms. So could you please speak? So Mahapurna just made a short statement. He said, our Supreme Lord, Sri Ramachandra Bhagavan, performed the final rites for Jatayu Dev, a vulture bird. I am not more powerful than Lord Ram, and this devotee is not more fallen than a bird. When Ramanujacharya heard that, he was so happy. He jumped up and started clapping his hands. Wonderful, wonderful. But people take some time to understand the simplicity of good knowledge. You make something very complicated, people try to decipher it immediately. But you give something simple, and people are like, is that? Could you say again, please? They want it to be repeated. So many of them could not understand. But then they saw Ramanujacharya saying, wonderful, wonderful, and they heard that, oh, Lord Ram's name has been taken. That means there is some praman, there is some proof. What is the proof? Their thick brains couldn't really assimilate that. So what Mahapurna has said that the Supreme Lord, Sri Ramchandra himself had performed the funeral rites for Jatayu. Jatayu is a bird. So according to all these various classifications, Sri Ramchandra should not have done the funeral rites for Jatayu. In fact, at that point of his life, Sri Ramachandra, or his avatar, this was the first funeral rite that he had performed. He hadn't even performed the funeral rite for final rite for his father. Many of us may not understand why this should be a cause for concern, because save birds, save animals. So society was really very rigid at that point. They had their own reasons. So if he would have said that, no, I would not do this, that means he would have been more pure than Lord Ram. If Lord Ram can do it, then how can anyone else say no? And should this devotee receive this kind of benediction? If the devotee did not receive that kind of blessing, then should we say a human being is lower than an animal or a bird? So Lord Ram has established the precedent. And that is what we should understand from scriptures. People could not accept it. So they're like, okay, if you say so, we do not, we take back our, demand to ban. But then they decided to not interact with him at all. So officially there was no ban. Unofficially, no one wanted to interact with him. He became an outcast, practically. And then some of the forerunners, those who had various kinds of duties at the temple, they wanted to embarrass him more. They stopped, or they took away all of his rights of service within the temple and outside of the temple too. So every day he would go and do services for Ranganath. That was stopped. And when Lord Ranganath on special occasions would come out for his Palaki, the festival, where he takes a tour of the city outside of the temple. What is it called?
Procession.
What procession? Yeah, it's a festival. There's no equivalent, right? So the Lord comes out to take a tour outside of the temple on special occasions. So when the Lord came out, they prevented him from coming out of his house. They didn't take darshan of the Lord on the cart, on the palanquin. Yeah, the palanquin procession, sorry. Palaki, palanquin. Yes, they stopped him from doing that. So he was sitting inside his house crying, sitting at his altar and crying and crying and crying that, my dear Lord, I'm so fallen that I've committed such an offense unto you that now I'm not able to even come and see you on the palanquin. Now, when the Lord would go around on his palanquin, he would pass down the roads, the lanes where the devotees would live. And the prominent lane down which the Lord would go was where Mahapurna's house was there. They would not let him come out of his house. And to instigate him, as they were nearing his house, just started singing loudly and making like more noise. We are having a huge festival. They really wanted to demean him, to embarrass him, to make him feel bad. They forgot about the Lord. Their concern was how they could put him down. So no one was paying attention to the Lord on the palanquin. Is that relatable? That happens. Sometimes when we have service for the Lord and we are in the limelight, we are more focused on the line and the light than on the Lord. It can happen, right? They are more focused on how they can trouble him. The Lord had other plans. So when they were approaching his house, they increased the DJ volume. They increased the volume of the sound system. They were telling everyone, dance, dance. And they were making all those announcements. And as soon as they touched the perimeter of his compound to his house, they told the pallbearers, the palanquin bearers, run. Run with double speed, triple your speed. You shouldn't even have a glimpse through any window. So they all started running. Actually, it was not a palanquin, this was a cart. This was festival. The Lord also goes on a palanquin, but this was a cart. So they started running. They ran. The palanquins, the cart stayed there. They were running. The cart still stayed there. So people call out to them, hey, wait, the cart is not moving. You're running ahead. The cart is still there. They're like, then what is in our hands? Nothing. They felt as if they were pulling the cart. Their hands were empty. The cart is just stopped right there in front of his house. Or they felt that maybe there is some issue with the gears. So they immediately called for a lot of machine oil, put it into the gears, oil the system again. Meanwhile, they told people to stand in such a way that it would obstruct the view from his house. After they had oiled all the gears, they said, now pull. People started pulling, the cart wouldn't move. So they thought, these people suddenly, they have all lost their strength. They asked more people to join in. They asked some people to go behind and push from the back of the cart. The others, they told that now you make a human chain and pull each other. This way, more people could be there. With their combined strength, they could pull the cart. They were all tired. They couldn't pull the cart. Still, they couldn't understand. Others were concerned. What happened? What happened? They said, no, there are technical issues. Technical issues. They said, the cart has certain technical issues. We are not able to understand what happened to the gears. But I think we would need more horsepower, more strength to pull the cart. So what should they do? So they asked for elephants to come. Actually, that is what they did. A couple of hours had already passed. At first they got the bullocks, the bulls. The bulls couldn't pull the cart. Then they got elephants. The elephants could not pull the cart. Finally they said, we don't know what is happening. Then someone said, hey, this seems to be mystical. Maybe there is a mystical person who's preventing the cart from moving. And they actually believed that. The greatest of all mystics was sitting on the cart. But they lost all sense of discrimination by now. All they could think was, we cannot allow him to have even an iota of service of the Lord. So they called for mystics. Please do your mantras, do your mystical chants, do whatever you want and make the cart move. So some of the mystics, they came in great pomp and show like, yeah, we can do it. And then they had to go back ashamed. The cart wouldn't move. Finally, after 3 hours or 4 hours, someone said there is a very mystical personality. This person lives incognito. This person does not meet anyone. However, I have access on the dark web to him. So I will get his contacts and I will ask him to come here. So somehow there was some trading done in cryptocurrency on the dark web. And our friend, the great mystic, comes. The great mystic goes in trance. Meanwhile, the so-called office bearers of the temple, they're like, shh, stand, cover up, don't let him see. There's confusion, the public is wondering what is happening. They are like, the Lord is like, oh, great mystic has come. So they are all very, very much curious. The mystic goes on. After half an hour of this meditation, the mystic opens his eyes and starts blasting all of them. He says, you have offended a very, very pure personality. That is why the cart is not moving. How could you be so stupid? This person is so dear to everyone in this creation. Even I offer respect to this personality. Do you know who that person is? If this person takes your behavior as the slightest of offense, if the person feels a little bit unhappy because of your behavior, you and all of your generations to come will suffer such a terrible fate. You will all be burned. That is how powerful this person is. I myself am going to run away from here because I cannot face the wrath of this person. The mystic ran away. 4 hours, the carts stayed right there. So the chief priest, he realized that right now, his TRP ratings would go down if he did not fix the situation. So he decided to fix the situation. Otherwise, his stocks were like plummeting. People are like, why is the chief priest not doing anything? The mystic has already said, who is this great devotee? And people are there. There could have been a riot right there. So the chief priest, he tells everyone, stay here. He enters the house of Mahaprabhu. It was easy for him to enter, it was right there, right? And he goes up to Mahaprabhu and falls at his feet and says, sir, please come. The Lord is waiting for you. And when Mahaprabhu hears that the Lord is waiting for him, he immediately runs out and he offers his prostrated obeisances right there on the street. And all he is concerned about is the beautiful form of the Lord. So chief priest comes out and he says, please, sir, please, you forgive us. He's deaf to all of that. He's simply crying. He's like, my dear Lord, what was my offense? I've not been able to see your beautiful form from so many days. How can anyone who loves you so much tolerate that? What are you trying to do? Are you trying to test me? I will never be able to pass this test. It is intolerable. Lord Ranganath is smiling. It's like smile from ear to ear. From one ear to the other ear. Big smile. When the crowd sees that big smile, they forget all of the 4 hours of mayhem that was happening there. And the Lord, he simply smiles. He doesn't speak much. And he goes on and on like, why did you do this? What did I do wrong? Were you not happy with the service that I did that day? If you were not happy with that, you could have told me. You could have somehow or the other. Or is it something else? He couldn't stop. He was like constantly just letting out his heart. Finally, the chief priest comes and whispers in his ear, sir, the Lord also has to go back. There's so many other rituals that are waiting there. Can you please allow us to go? Like, oh, I'm sorry. Yes, my dear Lord, please forgive me. Now I made you wait here so long. Please enter your temple. Then when the people pulled, the chariot was as light as a feather. Because as if the Lord was also eager to go back and accept all the rituals. It's like, yeah, it's been 4 hours already. So I went in there. But the Supreme Lord is extremely benevolent. Very merciful. It is the harshness of our heart and our distractions that prevent us from accessing the mercy of the Lord. Some may call it faith, some may call it superstition, whatever you call it. Ultimately, it is the realization that makes you taste the mercy of the Lord. One has to experience it to know it. One can hear of it, one can talk about it. It is the experience that gives the sweetness of this relationship that every living entity has with the Supreme Lord. So, in this human form of life, we have an opportunity once again. Most probably, we may have had many other human forms. Most probably, we may not have. Who knows? But at least in this lifetime, and maybe in so many other lifetimes in the past, and this lifetime, they can have this opportunity to be able to perceive and accept the grace of the Supreme Lord in the form of this sweet reciprocation. And if we want to open ourselves to this realm of experience, then in the present age of Kali Yuga, we can do that. We can open ourselves. We can let the grace flow in through the chanting of the holy names of the Lord. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Shri Prabhupada ki jai. Hiranganath Swami ki jai. Any comments, reflections, questions? Please feel free to ask or to contribute. You could raise your hands if you have something.
You said on this Ekadasi, the demigods goes to sleep and no oblations, and then Uttana Ekadasi they wake up. So on this next 4 months, they don't get receive any worship.
They can, we'll have to wake them up.
Okay.
So we don't want to wake them up. We want them to have a good sleep so that they can be very enthusiastic when they wake up. No one likes disturbed sleep, right? So it's not that they cannot receive, they can receive. However, should we wake them up? So scriptures tell us that it's not necessary.
But in our Indian tradition of worship still goes on to the demigods in this 4 months, right?
Yeah, no problem. We can always go on uploading. They'll download in their own time. Is it all right?
Yeah, nice concept for cloud and upload and download.
Yeah.
Oblations and sacrifices.
Yes. You're welcome. Yes.
I have a question from.
Yeah, I have this question from someone. Basically, the question goes like this. I was interacting with this person over and over again. The question is that, is it possible, and it could be, that the reciprocation that you're talking about, that we all talk about, and it's actually, we go through that, and that's why our faith increases. But what if that is just in your mind and you create that image because you want to, and you get your feeling yourself, because it is also said that when you think of something or over and over in your mind, you start believing it, and maybe it is all just a belief which, because you over and over think about it, you start getting that kind of feeling that something is reciprocating, and you try to, whenever something happens, you try to fit into that realm, that yeah, see, this is happening, kind of thing. So what would be a suitable explanation for this to give to the...
I think we have to stop believing that we are really very, very powerful. We may have some abilities, but to think that I'm so powerful that if I can think that this is the image that I can create, then according to that, the image will manifest. I mean, that's called as hallucination. It's not about me being a creator. Yeah, I can try and hallucinate. So, when we speak of a process of evolution is logical, and it is also, let us say, there is a science behind it. If I say scientific, then everyone's ears will be up, like, what's scientific? So there is a science behind it. No one was, at least I think in the western part of the world, no one was aware or cared for why an apple is falling down a tree. from a tree, falling down to the ground from a tree. People thought that that is what apples do. So this person comes up and says, hey, that is because of, there's some pull. Anything that goes up comes down, or anything that is up there, if it falls, it comes down. So then, based on that, they had more, let us say, experimentation, and they understood that there is a pull. They said, let us call it gravity. Then we have this gentleman who's glorified as a scientist. But previous to that, so typically, when the general public is exposed to scientific revelation, they think it is madness. But science doesn't really get offended by people saying things. Science is science. And it takes people with a scientific approach to be accepted as scientists later on. All right? So first of all, we should not think that we are so great. That, if anything that you think, because I think I'm a car, then in the night I start dreaming I'm a car. Well, that is easily explained. However, if I think that there is a form, and then that form comes in my dream, that can also be explained. However, if I think there is a form, and the form manifests in my wakefulness, and not only that, the form is beyond all the attributes that I have offered to that form. Now, if it is just manifesting as a form, it could be an hallucination. However, the form has more attributes, greater attributes than what I could have ever imagined, then that's revelation. It's science. So when anyone has that kind of a revelation, it is a eureka moment. Eureka! Now I understand it. Now I understand how beautiful, how great, how gracious, how amazing, how powerful the Lord is. Is it all right?
Yes. Thanks.
You're welcome. Anything else? We'll stop here. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.